Cool. So my name's Laura Hall and I'm the product manager for the business portfolio for vocational qualifications at Pearson, and esports is within my portfolio. And I have the pleasure of working with Callum for the last few years on the BTEC, and we're here to mainly I'm going to be running through a fairly short update of the level 2 and level 3 reforms, of which you will all know sort of varying amounts on. But also then I'm going to hand over to Callum, who's going to be talking about British esports and some updates there. There will be an opportunity 100% for you to ask questions. It would be quite useful if you are able to listen to what I say, primarily because you're probably going to ask things that I might cover. But then I'll open the floor to people to speak, but also put in the chat, and then we'll take it from there. But so I'm just going to share my screen. Okay, so we're going to look through the rapid review that happened at the end of last year, talk a little bit about the context of what's been happening, look at the funding lists, and next steps, level 2 and level 3. Okay, so as you will probably know, you will have been on a journey of knowing and not knowing what's going on. The reform timeline, goes back quite a long way, where the level 3 and below policy landscape was announced around academic and technical pathways, and a schedule for defunding those qualifications was starting with low and no registrations, which doesn't affect us. Then in 2022, we had cycles introduced where cycle 1 subject areas and sizes were published for how reform was going to happen, and the defunding of qualifications that had no or low registrations were announced. Cycle 1 qualifications are not where esports sits, and I'll go through that afterwards. Then in 23, we had further defunding announcements, and awarding organisations were able to submit their cycle 1 qualifications for funding approval. Again, this did not include esports. And then last year, we obviously had some approvals on those cycle 1 qualifications, which are due to be delivered in September. And some of you may overlap with some of those because digital's in there. So if you're teaching across sectors, you may well have this knowledge anyhow. We obviously had the general election and a new government. And at that point, we were poised to, just before that, we were poised to submit some qualifications that we had redeveloped in our cycle 2, which also didn't include esports, but did include business related qualifications. And we had a variety of different options that we were going to submit, but that was paused with the new government and a rapid review was called. They also started a curriculum and assessment review, and they reversed some of the defunding that had been previously identified, and the results of the rapid review were given to us. So it's all been a very, very busy and confusing time for people, not least yourselves. And esports has been sitting under the radar of all of these reforms, mainly because it hasn't got its own sector in education terms, and it doesn't have an SSA. So it's not highlighted as a specific qualification that the government were looking at, but would have been sort of rolling along with the defunding across the board in the previous government agenda. So, as we just mentioned, that rapid review was focusing on post-16 quals at level 3 and below, and which funding should be removed and which funding should be extended. So they looked at overlap with T levels and also qualifications at level 3 in those cycle 1 subjects, digital being one of those, that were not approved for funding, and therefore an AAQ or a technical might take its place. And those outcomes were really late in coming through December 24, probably just as you were off on your Christmas break. So the key outcomes, which there's a couple in here that were really interesting and important for esports, but also obviously cycle 1 subjects and our cycle 2 as they go through. So alternative academic qualifications and technical qualifications in those cycle 1 subjects will still continue to be taught this September. All RQF BTEC nationals in those smaller 2 sizes in those cycle 1 sectors will remain defunded from this July, and they will be replaced by our BTEC nationals alternative academic qualifications and technicals that we had developed beforehand, again not including esports. This one is a key one, especially for centres who are not delivering the full 3 A-level equivalent extended diploma and diploma, but in the previous government they had suggested that an alternative academic qualification would only be allowed to be taken with 2 A-levels. That has now been scrapped, and you choose which your student study programme is right for them. So you may see that as a positive outcome. And then each sector's funding will be reviewed independently and has a bespoke funding outcome. So it is really important that we keep on top of communicating with you about what's happening, because what happens in one sector won't necessarily be aligned to happening in another sector. So it's important for us to keep on top of that for you and with you, of course. And then level 2, the cycle 1 subjects, which are listed at the bottom of this slide, will continue to be taught this September as well. So those were the key outcomes of that particular rapid review. Again, just giving you the full picture. What also happened was we had an extension of the funding for the BTEC nationals in esports. So along with your cohort that you may have recruited this year, you have now another 2 recruitment cohorts. So your September 2025 first year starts and your September 2026 first year starts will be funded, guaranteed. And obviously, if you're putting your students on a 2-year programme, in 2026, you'll need to make sure that they are registered on their end target qualification. Now, this is how it stands right now. We obviously have a lot of, a long journey to go down, know exactly what will happen after 26, 27, and that will come out over the period of the next few months. So from 2026 onwards, the DfE have provided some frequently asked questions, and there's just a statement here that just indicates that the curriculum and assessment review is what they're concentrating on right now for cycle 2 and other qualifications like esports, and what they're going to be doing with them from first teach September 26, and more information will be provided as this year goes on. We do expect that the CAR, as it's now referred to, the curriculum and assessment review, will have its full findings available to us in the autumn term, most likely November, but we are expecting an interim review report in February, March this year, which will give us some strong indications of how that curriculum and assessment review is going. And at that point, we could potentially be making some considerations about what we'll be doing around esports, without being able to confirm that for definite until the full review is finished. Just a short recap. So developed qualifications were ready for submission, not in esports, but in some other subjects like events management, for example. They're on hold until further notice. Esports has never been on any initial lists for redevelopment, but we are hoping that within the curriculum assessment review, they will be able to be redeveloped, and they will probably fall into cycle 3. So they may be clumped together with cycle 2, so business and those related subjects that aren't in cycle 1, or they may be put onto a cycle 3, which means that there's a good chance that the funding that we see at the moment as being finishing 26-27 will actually roll over potentially, but that's all to be cleared up. Okay, so just a reminder of what we have at the moment for our BTEC level 2 and 3. We have a lot of support resources, delivery guidance, authorised briefs, as well as project briefs. Examiner reports is not relevant to esports, sorry, I should have taken that off. And we have our British Esports partnership, and I'm going to let Callum talk about that shortly, but that's positive to support teaching and learning, employer contacts, hosting, competitions, etc. We have our updates where each month we include what's happening in BTEC esports world, and anything that you would like to be included in things like that could always be passed through to Colin, our subject advisor. And then other support that we're working on. So, for example, we're currently working on a relationship with McLaren Formula One Esports, as well as other organisations that potentially will support delivery of BTEC esports in the future. And so we're not sort of sitting and waiting for things to happen. We are continuing to listen to what you have to say about how the BTEC delivery is going, how your learners are progressing, what they like about it and what they don't. And I think that we're going to touch on that at the end, because that's a continued conversation that we'd like to make sure happens on a more regular basis than it does at the moment. But just a quick, before I go on to that, just a quick confirmation of our level 2 as well. All reform rollout is paused for level 2 in our cycle 2s, and any cycle 3s, which was initially at level 2 September 27, that's all on pause. And just a reminder that if you're not familiar with our level 2 offer, we do have 3 sizes of the BTEC. So your award certificate and extended certificate. So whichever suits your study programme for your students, there's generally something that suits them in terms of size. I'm putting these links in because I'm going to send you this slide deck. All of the links that are in here you'll be able to see. But these links are related to the funding and the reforms, and they're obviously always updated. So if you put those into your STAR pages, then you'll be able to go to them easily. Okay, so I'm just gonna end that slideshow and stop sharing. Okay, so as I said, whistle stop tour really. Oh, did I share that in the wrong view? Sorry. I don't know. Got a message saying I was doing it wrong. Sorry about that. Okay, so any questions on the chat, or anybody like ask any questions before we move on to British Esports and talking about your input? No, no questions. Okay, everyone's clear. So Callum, I don't know whether you want to.
Yeah, brilliant.
Back on.
Thanks, Laura. Hope everyone can hear me all right. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining all past 4 o'clock. First day back after the weekend. It's great to see so many familiar faces in there. Thanks. And I think just, an honest and open reflection from our point of view as well. Really positive. It's great to hear that we've got this extension to funding, which, was expected to happen with the new incoming government. I think for those of you that have been looking at the government's agenda and proposals towards education, it's all about skills. We know that these qualifications and esports in general have a huge impact and benefit when it comes to skills, when it comes to engagement, when it comes to increasing attendance, when it comes to supporting progression, social mobility. And this is what we've heard from you all over the last few years. I think what we need to continue to do collectively so that we're able to continue to make the case for the need for these programs and qualifications as we move forward is ensure that we have up-to-date data, that we can measure the impact of these programs. What I'll do before we close today is I'll share some links. We did a round of data collection before the curriculum and assessment review closed, where we submitted some really positive data from some of you and some of you contributed to that. So thank you for those that did. For those that didn't get the chance to submit that data and to contribute, like I said, I'll share those links with you today. And effectively, they are to try and collect data from the last 4 academic years where these programs have been delivered so that we can ensure that we can report back an accurate picture when it comes to achievement, to success, to progression data, to where students have gone, to high grades, all of the things that we know have been really positive from the program so far. So I'll share those in the chat before we leave. I'll also make sure that they're included in the follow-up, and when Laura shares the deck, we'll be able to share those links as well. So whether it's you or colleagues that gets forward onto, that we can continue to collect that data. So I'm going to give a bit of an update on where we are in terms of British esports. I know lots of you already. Some people are brand new and may never have met us before. But for those of you that do know us and that work with us regularly, just wanted to give you a quick snapshot of where we're up to and what we're expecting coming up over the next year and beyond. So hopefully that's gone into full screen. I will switch that, so you should be on full screen now. Hopefully that's come through okay. Let me know if not, anyone, please. So again, this is a bit of a standard overview that we share with everyone for those that don't know British esports. We're the national body for esports across the United Kingdom. We work really closely with all our home nations federations as well, and effectively we're a not-for-profit organisation where our goals are to promote, to improve and inspire anything and everything to do with esports. That's to inspire future talent, it's future players, it's the future workforce. A lot of our work is around creating standards. We do that across safeguarding, across coaching, standards where I'll give a little update today around what we've been doing around occupational standards and the occupational routes that exist. And we organise and select the official national teams that compete in global competitions. We organise the British Esports Student Champs, again, which many of you compete in already. For any of you that don't compete in the Student Champs yet, please do get in touch with us to find out more about that competition, which we've found as a fantastic value add to centres that have esports cohorts to not just involve esports students in multiple roles beyond a player, thinking about coaching, data analytics, thinking about the live streaming, the broadcasting, the casting that takes place from live events, but also students across organisations, across colleges, across schools that aren't studying esports, that may be studying other areas, but actually want to be part of the esports community. So we can share that with you if people need more information there. we've had almost 15,000 students now that have studied education programs that we've been directly involved in the last 4 years, including the level 2 and the level 3 BTEC. We work really closely with the NSPCC, and we have a partnership there around setting global safeguarding standards in esports. We run the award-winning equity, diversity and inclusion programs, Women in Esports being one of those. A really diverse advisory board with leaders across sport, video games and esports. And then excitingly, we've been developing the National Esports Performance Campus, which I'll share with you. That is an opportunity for all of our schools, colleges, universities to come and get an experience with us, to come on a day trip, to come on an overnight residential, to work with us at British Esports and to stay in and use the facilities. And we're recognised as a leading national federation in esports globally. In terms of the education pathway, the first thing that we developed in partnership with Pearson was the level 2 and the level 3 BTEC programs, which obviously everyone's here today to get the update from. But what we've created now around that is this wider pathway where, again, for those of you that don't know, around the level 2 and the level 3 BTECs in esports, we've worked with Leadership Skills Foundation, who work really closely with Pearson and have done for a number of years in sport. And we've developed an esports leadership program, which again is a real value add to anyone who's delivering the level 2 and level 3 BTECs, either as an introductory to esports that can be something that people are delivering in alternative provision settings, in SEND settings, with feeder schools, and secondary schools that might be coming in, but also as an additionality to the study program, so that alongside the level 2 and the level 3 BTEC, young students can gain a leadership qualification in esports by doing either the level 1 assistant leadership or the level 2 leadership. That's all been mapped into the level 2 and level 3 BTEC. So we're not asking for additional delivery, additional events that students have to do. But for example, if you're delivering the events unit at level 2 or level 3, then the evidence that is generated for the BTEC also means that actually your learners have delivered an event, and by completing an evaluation, they can evidence their leadership skills. And it's all of these skills that we're always talking about: teamwork, communication, organisation, time management, so that they can actually leave with a leadership qualification. And some of you, I'm sure, will have had barriers when it comes to introducing esports into your settings, speaking to parents, speaking to secondary school careers advisors. Whilst they might not understand esports, when we talk about the curriculum, they definitely understand the business units that are in your programs, the events units, the sports units, the media units, and they also understand leadership, and so do employers. So that should hopefully be supportive to those of you that are delivering programs already. Again, if you want to know more about those, please do get in touch with us, and we can help you to embed those within your programs. It's great to hear that there's a pause at level 2, and they will remain funded, and that redevelopment has been paused. And then just massively positive news that we've had this extension now at level 3, which means that, for the next 2 academic years, we know that these qualifications are going to be funded. What we've then been developing around this is we've also then got the level 4 and the level 5 higher nationals, which launched in September this academic year. I think we've got around 10 centres that are actively now delivering those, and they've served as a really good progression, particularly for FE colleges, to introduce a level 4 and level 5 provision, typically for those students who, university and higher education may not be for them. They may not want to move away from home. They may want to stay local and have those smaller class sizes and that more personal learning environment to actually stay within your settings. So again, if you've not seen those yet, please do let us know and we can support you with level 4 and level 5. And I've put College of Esports on there at level 4, 5, 6, who we've worked with to develop undergraduate degree programs. But now across the UK, including the higher nationals, we have over 30 different higher education or university providers, and there are over 60 different esports related higher education or degree programs. So there really is a great option for your students to continue to progress into higher education wherever you are, whether that's through the higher nationals or whether it's through a university option. So I think surrounding level 3, which sits right at the heart of all of this, the extension to that funding is critical, which means that we can continue to recruit into programs and then support progression out, really showcasing the impact of your programs moving forwards. I've got Institute for Apprenticeships and Technical Education on there. British Esports, we are the employer directory organisation within IFATE. IFATE, as you know, have the occupational maps and have the occupational standards, of which lots of redevelopments of qualifications, when it comes to the funding and it comes to mapping into standards, have to map into what were IFATE's occupational standards. That's going to be subsumed by Skills England, which is now the new body that will oversee all of the standards and where all funding regulations will go through. As British Esports, again, during this crossover, we've been part of that Skills England consultation, particularly around digital skills and programs. So again, just to try and give you all that reassurance that that's what we've been doing in the background as part of these curriculum and assessment reviews. We've been working with the Department for Education, with IFATE, with Skills England. We've also been parts of lots of British Chamber of Commerce industrial strategy meetings, looking at the future of industrial growth, the part that esports and video games will have to play in that, which again is all about skills moving forwards. You, as well as anybody, knows firsthand the skills that are developed through these programs and the benefit that we have to overlapping different curriculum areas. Again, with this incoming government, they've really placed a focus on the fact that where previously overlap wasn't allowed with some of the new proposed T-levels, they're encouraging programs that now overlap areas like business and media and sport, which ours do, and we cover multiple areas there. So that cross-curricular approach, I think, is really important to us moving forwards, and how we can get your feedback, finally, just to reiterate, to showcase the impact of why you've been delivering these programs and why you want to continue to deliver these programs beyond 2027. A few images just to show you all. Hopefully you've all seen this one before, which was developed right at the start of the BTECs when they were launched. If you haven't seen this and if you're not using this yet, please do use it. Please do use it on your web pages. Please do use it when you're advertising your courses, when you're talking about the careers information and guidance, to highlight those skills, the job roles in esports, the academic links through the level 2 and level 3 BTECs. And importantly now, as we start to think about emerging technologies, cloud-based technologies, careers in cyber, artificial intelligence, all of these new digital careers that are coming through your esports programs, we have a fantastic vehicle to engage young people digitally and move them towards some of those careers in tech, digital and STEM that 4 or 5 years ago we knew we were going to have skills gaps and shortages. We know now that we definitely do, and actually these programs can serve as a really good solution to moving people on towards those areas. So again, please do use that. One additional one that you may not have seen that we developed as we launched the level 4 and level 5, again, was all around skills and how we categorize now the skills that we've seen coming out of these programs across these 6 key areas in problem solving, independent skills, interpersonal skills, commercial, business, and academic study skills. So again, hopefully a useful resource for you there when you're talking about your programs, your pathways, enrollment to programs and progression opportunities. Coming up, again, around standards, one of the things that we've been working on really closely with CIMSPA, the Chartered Institute for Physical Activity and Sport, effectively. So if you look at CIMSPA and sport standards, physical activity standards, we've been working really closely with CIMSPA, thinking about that work with Skills England around coaching and coaching development. So launching this year, all of the things on the outside there, that dark blue, that's all going to be free. So this is something that we're going to be recommending that all teachers, all coaches as part of the Student Champs get involved in and really understand how we're working with our young people and make sure that we're increasing standards across education in particular. For example, when you get new staff coming into your institutions that are going to be working with students around health and wellbeing, cyber choices, mental health, child rights, online safety, safeguarding, and equality, diversity and inclusion. These have all been developed in partnership with people like the NSPCC, with the National Crime Agency, with UNICEF UK, that we can then start to think about the professionalisation of esports coaching standards, which is something that we're working with CIMSPA and with Skills England on moving forwards. If you're not speaking about it yet when it comes to your esports programs, in Paris in 2024 at the Olympic Games, we had the President Bark announcement that the Olympic Esports Games will be coming in 2025, which is really exciting, so that you're now going to have young people coming into your centres that want to become the next gold medalist to represent their country, to represent Great Britain. So that's a really exciting time for us all across the United Kingdom, which again is something that I think is important that we're actively speaking about. It will help, hopefully, with some of those careers conversations, with some of those parental conversations around actually what esports is and where the opportunity exists. And then as British Esports, where we sit within that landscape is around the organisation of some of the national teams in GB and home nations competitions, things like the Global Esports Games, Olympic Esports Week, which was in 2023, the European Games Esports Championships, the Commonwealth Esports Championships, which was in 2022. We're a co-founder of the UK Esports Teams Committee, which is 14 of the top professional esports teams in the United Kingdom. And then within the Global Esports Federation, we're the recognised member for Great Britain and Northern Ireland. So that's where we sit in the international infrastructure. We're a founding member of the International Olympic Committee's Gaming, Esports and Gaming Liaison Group. We help to organise the Commonwealth Esports Championships and are still working with the Commonwealth Games Federation. Our president is a board member and vice president of the Global Esports Federation and of the European Esports Federation, and is a trade advisor to the UK government on esports, which again is really important when it comes to things like the Department for Business and Trade and these qualifications and their value internationally, which we've had some amazing feedback on. And then our vice president is the vice chair of the Education, Culture and Youth Commission within the Global Esports Federation and has recently been appointed as a member of the Safeguarding Technical Expert Group for the Olympic Esports Games. So that's where we sit in relation to our UK and international presence. As a result, we've developed the National Esports Performance Campus. So this is a space, again, as I've said, where you can get in touch with us, where you can bring student groups for day trips, for overnight residentials, which some centres already have done. It's a resource that's there to be used. It's a place where pro teams come to train, but it's also a business and education hub. Consists of 3 parts, which is the place, which is the hub in the city centre, which is where all the classrooms are and all the office spaces. 3 gaming houses, which sleep up to 27 people, where teams will come and stay, will come and train, will come and boot camp. Schools, colleges, universities can come and stay overnight in those gaming houses. And then we've got the arena, which is opening up by the Stadium of Light in the city centre. This is an example of one of the gaming houses. They've all got one of these performance rooms up in the roof of each of the houses where teams that are staying on site can train and compete from. And then the 3 parts, as you can see there with the map above, is the arena next to the stadium, which is due to open this summer, which is incredibly exciting, as well as then the place and the houses. That's a bit of a mock-up of the arena, 17 metre by 3 metre screen, 200 plus seater spectator space, multi-use facility, content creation studio, broadcast. We'll have 5G mobile network, which is a private network across the Stadium of Light and our arena, which means we can run a mobile broadcast from pretty much anywhere, which will be seamless using that 5G network. And then finally, the student champs, as I mentioned, if you're not involved in that already and you're not involved in any of our competitions, please do get in touch with us and we can help you to get started if you haven't started already. My details are on there on the screen. If anyone wants to reach out directly, my email address is there and you can get in touch. Please do follow us across social channels. You can subscribe to our newsletter where you'll get all of the British esports updates moving forwards. And then, yeah, just to finalise from me, a massive thank you for everyone just for joining to get this update. One of the things that we'll be doing as we move forwards later into this year, as I said, is we'll be announcing that and releasing that duty to care framework, which is a resource for you all to support teaching standards, coaching standards across your practice. We'll be launching that coaching framework, and then we'll be looking, now that we've had this announcement collectively and we understand what the next 2 years are going to look like, we'll be looking at our next education summit as British Esports, where again we'll look to provide a whole host of workshops, talks, panel sessions where you can come and attend as a CPD event. So that's something else to look out for in the near future. But yeah, as mentioned, I think it's a massively positive result for all of us. Hopefully helps everyone to breathe a nice sigh of relief and to be able to update colleagues and senior leaders and people in charge of funding within the organisation. It gives us that confidence what the next few years are going to look like. And as mentioned, as we move towards what the next round of funding will be beyond 2027. British Esports are going to be working really closely with Pearson, with Laura and the team, as well as with government, to make sure that we're working hard on those updates. And as mentioned, in terms of what next, it's a request for data, as much data as you can get hold of for us, please, that will really help us moving forwards. And then, as Laura mentioned, we'll be reaching out to get in touch to get your opinions of what those redevelopments may look like and what your involvement can be in helping us to reshape those.